Hello, welcome to Lackluster Reactions. I'm a lackluster actor, here today for the new show of Winter 2026, which I'm just going to make this video as opposed to a separate announcement video for a really brief reason, but I can explain most of it while starting the show, so let's just get the show rolling, shall we? I didn't get to the clock. There's going to be a pop-up, so let me get that out of the way. One moment. Okay, so let's get started. So, first off, let's do my usual brief announcement thing while we are going through everything. Because I think you guys can watch along at the same time I'm talking. So, for my shows that I'm watching myself this season, there's a lot of season 2s and continuations. So, there was slim pickings of me actually having brand new shows. So, however, well, I guess before I move on to the next part, there is the option of just starting in the middle of a show that's a season 2, but I've done that before. It's not something I would actually choose if I have options, but so I looked at what I had, and we had Fate Strange Fate, which, full disclosure, I have seen the special episode 0. I've seen this when it premiered last year and didn't have anything behind it. Still salty about that. And full disclosure as well, I'm a Fate fan. I've been keeping up with the actual visual novels. So I've read all 9 of the 10 that have come out. So I know exactly what's going to be happening in the story. None of the story is new to me. The animation, which is beautiful, will be. But I know the outline of the story, so it's going to be different from usual shows. But still, I thought this would be actually made a pop-up happen. Anyway, so that's how I came about choosing this, which so going into it, some of you might not be Fate fans. Some of you might be one of the 10 people who actually watches me react to stuff and not be sure about Fate in general. So let me give you a brief idea of where all that is. So there's a loose timeline. There's a lot of multi-dimensional stuff happening in the oval, which is how the fates connect without contradicting each other. But the original game, Fate Stay Night, had 3 different routes, which were each adapted into anime. The Fate route, the Unlimited Blade World route, and the Heaven's Field route, which each had different endings. Which there was one for Fate, 2 for anyway. There was a total of like 6 endings. But of course, my little case files and this take part post that time. So one of the things they've constantly did in both there and here is, well, backing up on I'm Lord, the second half. The first half is before the one that has the anime adaptation, still before Fate Stay Night. Okay. What I'm trying to get to is that we have a whole reveal what had happened, but they're always loose so that they don't say exactly where in the time which of the routes is canon, or whether there's a 4th path that is the actual canon. So that is where we find ourselves post the same timeline as general timeline as the original Fate series, but a little bit in the future. Now, I'm starting with episode one. I did not doing the special because one, I've the special stuff in the special is even older than when the novels was originally being written. So we've already got that's over the stuff that's been on the internet for 10 years. And it's mostly just the introductions, which having watched this, I knew we were going through all the introductions again here. Introductions and the fight between Gilgamesh and Enkidu. That's a wonderful start, but so before review of the people we just mentioned, we have Gilgamesh's master, who's Tina Clark, Native American princess whose land was stolen for a snowfield. We had Enkidu summoned by a chimera who was supposed to be the sacrifice to summon the servant, but he was summoned to wild man instead. We had one of, well, since we're Florida El Malloy, we had Flat, who used a toy knife with Jack the Ripper's name written on it to summon Jack the Ripper. We had the Kooka family, who was allied with the masterminds as well, but they experimented on the daughter. The daughter summoned Ryder, who technically we still don't have a name for, but they've heavily shown that it's involved with diseases already. So we had Assassin summoned by Jester, who is a vampire with 6 forms, now 5. And one more pair we'll be getting into later this episode, so I'll leave Cass and his master to the side. Now, one more thing I would like to mention while El Meloy is giving his summation, but there's also one more event on the timeline that should be mentioned that's not really heavily talked about. Well, it's talked about, it's just has never been adapted in anime, in writing, or in anything. But in the 2 of the original routes, the ones that where Ilya doesn't seal the Grail, there's a event that happens in the future where there's a event to stop the Holy Grail War from ever happening again, which is as large-scale a battle as a actual Holy Grail War, which Rin was involved in, Wave was involved in. But again, it's never been adapted into anything, but this is post that. So again, we have even not only with experience in the 4th Holy Grail War, but experience with dismantling a Grail system. So but I think we've gotten past where they're doing set dialogue, and we've gotten on my end all the bases I wanted to cover going into this. So I will still yap about stuff as things come up. But also shout out to Francisco, one of our 2 masterminds, along with Valius. And technically our police chief as well, but he's more working with them as opposed to actually calling any of the behind the scenes shots. So That's the kind of thing you say when you're expecting to die. Better be careful. And our last pair we have Cast and his Master. One upgrade from hamburgers. Fortunately, that's kind of what America is now known for, even though hamburgers and hot dogs are both originally from Germany and were brought over by immigrants. But pizza is another thing that's predates America, which you can call a American delicacy. Donuts, that's another thing. There's a lot of scenes I'm gonna say I'm gonna love throughout this entire series because it's strange fake is crazy, but this scene is one of the more subdued ones where in the original introduction to all the servants, Castle came off as more of a buffoon who wasn't taking anything seriously. So this where he takes the time to show off and then threaten his master to continue to let him be a buffoon and not actually have to do any work is good. Food and women. No, actually for Cast, I think he would choose food before women still, which not after my heart. But that's the opinions of the red hood. I'll probably get the full ghost story later. Not sure exactly the best way to adapt that to animation, but I'm it's a ghost story as old as the Fate novels no, the Fate visual novels themselves. So another thing I should tell any of newcomers watching, Fate does not really that much you need to know beforehand before jumping into this if this is Fate series is new to you. Though there were with the caveat that the author himself is a Fate fan and likes well, Type Moon in general, not just Fate. So you a lot of references to a lot of things, but you don't actually need to know any of the references and what they relate to get the plot. Some, I guess, like having an idea of who Waver slash My Lord the Second is kind of helps, but not a necessary entry to this, not necessary entry ticket to the series. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Always good to see you. Just for reference, in general, out of the seven main classes, Assassin is my favorite, and our Assassin here is always fun. One side note of all of this, I want to just bring up since we are dealing with Assassin. There's a lot of historical figures summoned that don't reference the actual fact that they should be practicing religion. Like none of all old men of the mountain, all Hassan Sabahs, really dress the part of practicing Muslims or mention anything related to being practicing Muslims. So it's refreshing that our Hasashin here, no, at least she is playing the part, taking down people who believe in the Holy Grail, since the God that the Muslims believe in does not have a Holy Grail. While I was covering that, we had another servant enter the fray. Who I would like to point out name dropped Loxley, who is one of the inspirations historically for Robin Hood. Just in case you didn't miss that clue to who our saber here is. Oh look, another gas leak. Are you my master? Now, this one I also want to give a freebie to for any new fans. That's a long-handed scene that's referenced in most Fate works, since it's a reference from the original summoning from Fate. The saber looking to the person they just rescued and asking if they're the master. Hi, Flat. Yes, you're on TV. Hey, Flat. Yeah, yes, I'm sure Waver is delighted to see you on public television. A strange fake, also known as Thaddeus's week-long headache, which has just started. Yeah, Bad Francesca's having fun. Now, to be fair, these police are involved in the Great War, so it's not like it's civilians getting involved in a war. And she doesn't want any part of it. And on to anything, which I already know there's a post-credit theme, so I'll keep the clock running while I talk a bit. So, again, nice refresher of what actually has been adapted so far after having been away for a year. But so with the first episode and with me giving a brief rundown of everything, I would like to welcome newcomers to either the Fate Strange Fake or the Fate series in general. Welcome to this crazy, crazy Grail War. Already you've seen 6 servants summon, which are ridiculous in their own right, and we've just had the 7th take the stage. But even with a full cast of 777 masters, there's still plenty of ways this week is going to go wrong, especially for Thalius, trying to keep it all bottled up. But when has the US government ever been able to keep a secret, right? But let's see. Still a little bit before the credits over. So again, Assassin is my favorite class. Is she my favorite of the servants we have before us? Hmm. It's hard to say no because not only is the Assassin my favorite class, but the entirety of the assassins are the Nazari assassins, the ones referred to by the Crusaders as the Hastashin, but more refer to themselves as the Fide, at least the field agents. But Hassan and Sabah, Hassans are my favorites, and while she isn't a Hassan, she's still adjacent enough to them to not be talked to separately. The cast is great. We had a lot of good things with Castus, so I'm actually might be leaning towards him. But for our post-credit scene, what is a Grail War without the church getting involved to be a moderator in some way, whether they are actually neutral or having their fingers on the scale? Usually fingers on the scale, let's be honest. Even if it wasn't an anime, it's at the church, so. The least priestly priest. And so another crazy one enters the fray. Episode 1, the Heroic Spirit incident is over. So, But yeah, that is the beginning of Fate Strange Fake. Actual new episodes will start next week. And I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So I hope, well, thank you everyone who's stopped by and watched this episode with me. I hope you all have a good week. And I look forward to next week's episode. And hope to stop by to watch everything as well. Until then, take care.